The type B are the ones that are guidelines, which usually are not intended for certification. So why do we say ISO 9001 is the integration backbone? Firstly, ISO 9001 as customer focus as one of the uh, universal management principle. And here is saying that you need to meet customers' expectation and exceed their expectation and create value. Now, value creation definitely will come when your process approach is effective. Remember, process approach is saying from the process we described, you are transforming inputs. You are transforming raw materials and other inputs you have into products, services that meet customers' expectation, and they can pay even more than the input. You understand? That means there is value for money. This standard encourages that and supports that. This standard also supports risk-based thinking, which means you are able to identify risk and opportunities that are associated with your organization. And just like any other management system standard, type A management system standard, this standard encourages continual improvement. So it's not of course, you may not have a perfect organization, but when there is a non-conformity or there is setback within your organization, you have systems to react effectively, address these concerns, and make sure that you improve. Now, of course, for us to effectively carry out to integrate our management systems, we need to consider the harmonized structure. Before 2021, the harmonized structure used to be called Annex SL, which some people still try to talk about. But right now, if you look at the new versions of the standard that are going to be published, like the ISO 14001, that will be published in April 2026. And by the time you look at the ISO 9001, that will be published in September 2026 as well, you will find out that they are talking about harmonized structure. Now, the key expectation here is not missed. This harmonized structure should be used in your organization as a check tool to see whether you have been able to effectively incorporate the requirements of the standards, of the multiple standards, into your organization's business processes. That is the key requirement of this. It is not for you to document, it's not a structure or a template for documenting your integrated management system. So let's look at a simple process. Look at this bakery process that starts with buying stocks, and then of course you bake, you sell, you deliver, you bill the customers, and you count your money. This is a simple process. Remember, these are interrelated activities that transform input into an output. Remember, you also need to have support that will ensure that your mixers and your ovens are well maintained. You also need to have maintenance support that will help you to ensure that your delivery vehicle is also, of course, well maintained to get the product to the customer. This is a simple bakery process. Now, if you look at this, when you are talking about integration, it means that you can be looking at multiple requirements from one lens. What does that mean? You can be thinking about quality risk related to this bakery process. How do I ensure that I have a freshly baked bread and pastries out there that is not contaminated, for example? How do I ensure that from an environmental management perspective, I am not wasting water? I'm concerned about my water consumption. I'm concerned about my energy consumption. These are examples. Or I'm even concerned about wastage that can come from this process. What about from the occupational health and safety perspective, for example? What about maybe the oven, the temperature, uh, hot surfaces that you may have in the process? What about even information security, which is concerned about trust? How do you ensure that there is confidentiality of the customer data that you have access to? These are examples. What does this mean? It means that you should look at your process and look at how the multiple requirements of these standards can be brought into the process, can be incorporated into the process for it to effectively address all these multiple systems. And that is why, if you take a closer look at all the management system standards, especially the type A management system standards that I told you you can get certified to, you look at 5.1. It's saying it when it talks about leadership and commitment. It says top management shall demonstrate leadership and commitment with respect to the management system, whether it's quality, environment, information security, operational health and safety, among others. And if you look at the C part of that requirement, it says by ensuring the integration of the quality management system processes and requirements into the organization's business processes. Firstly, this is to tell you that integration, like I said earlier, is a strategic business decision. It's not a documentation. And that is where top management must drive this. It's very, very important for top management to drive this. This is not a system where you just look at clauses and combine them and say you have a system. It's about ensuring that the requirements are incorporated into your business processes. And this is what you need to consider for integration. Look at the commonalities that exist between the requirements of the different management system standards and that can be impacted by the same process. Focus on those requirements that have commonalities and the ones that are unique. Look for redundancies, areas where there can be duplication. Look for synergies and integration possibilities. So what this means is, like the example I gave earlier about the bakery process. When you look at a process and you are thinking about integration, consider how you can integrate or incorporate requirements from multiple standards into that process for it to work effectively. And that is where your starting point is. So look at the example of the bakery process that I looked at earlier. You can see here that this is just a sample for you to look at. You can see control of documented information in ISO 9001, production and service provision, non-conforming output. You also have control documented information in 14001, operational control. You also have environmental aspects. Keep in mind that there are some requirements that will be specific to some management system standards. You need to look at how you can specifically incorporate that as well. But always look out for commonalities, like I said earlier. So if you look at this template you are seeing here, you will see that, for example, every management system, type A management system is concerned about how you can control documented information. So whatever documentation you have for your baking process, you can control that that you have established for the quality elements of the baking process. You can control that the same way you have established environmental aspects related to that operation. You can control that where you consider the occupational health and safety risk that have been identified related to that operation. This is what we mean by that. And if you look at that high level harmonized structure that I told you about, you will see that there are a lot of opportunities for integration. And this is where integration, this is at the next step for you when we're talking about integration. Remember, the top management will lead the integration. That's why it's a top management responsibility to lead integration within an organization. Then you also need to clearly define the scope of your integration. So when you define the scope of your integration, it makes it easier to have a unified scope for your management system, and of course to identify relevant interested parties as well. For the leadership part, you can have integrated policies and your governance is also integrated, which means top management can holistically look at the entire management system and be able to make effective decisions. Of course, when it comes to planning, remember your objectives can also be integrated. You can have integrated or unified risk registers. When it comes to support, training, competence building can be done across for the management system standards as well. Resources have to be considered and also incorporated as well. Then operation, which is clause 8, is usually where you have nuances, slight differences in the requirements. For example, in food safety, you will see HACCP requirements in clause 8 or prerequisite programs requirements in clause 8. You will never see that in another management system standard. Or you are talking about information security controls in ISMS. You won't see that in another management system standard. Or you are talking about in the 8.7 in ISO 9001, where you talk about control of non-conforming outputs. You may not see that specifically as a requirement in another standard. So what this is saying is that you also need to look at how these specific requirements are addressed by your processes. Then when you come to clause 9, there is a lot of opportunity for integration in clause 9. Talk about your audits, talk about management review and the key performance indicators you also have. And then for clause 10, remember corrective actions and other improvement activities as well. So let's look at practical examples of controls that you can have that shows that you have integrated the requirements of the multiple standards into your business processes. If you look at your procurement process, for example, when it comes to supplier qualification and evaluation process, you need to have a holistic view of the procurement process where you identify quality, environmental or ESG criteria, OH&S criteria as well. When you are looking at that, what that means is that you have one process, but you are considering many risks from that same process. Then, of course, change management as well across multiple disciplines. Don't look at only quality risk when you are carrying out an effective change management. Consider other risks associated probably with the environment, the information security, occupational health and safety within the scope of the management system that you have defined. Now, having a unified risk register, it's a very good advantage for you as an organization, because when you have a single risk register, it helps you to address all this risk holistically, like I said, and it gives your organization or the top management effective information to be able to make a far-reaching decision for the organization. So you can address requirements relating to risk relating to quality, occupational health and safety, information security, among others as well. This is another sample just to tell you that it's easier for you to have a complete picture of your risk within an organization than having separate risk registers that are managed separately and are not integrated for effective integration. So for example, you are looking at from a quality perspective, there's no adequate process control. You are looking at health and safety perspective, employee injury due to unsafe machinery operation, spills, among others, that can lead to environmental contamination. These are just examples. Now, let's look at how you can also integrate your key performance indicators and for your performance monitoring. When it comes to key performance indicators, also remember we are talking about process-driven integrated management system. Look at the management system's intended outcomes and see what you need to do to manage them. For example, ISO 9001 credit management system is concerned about meeting customers' expectation, exceeding their expectation. So you need to holistically, as part of your KPI, look at how you monitor your processes and how you monitor customer satisfaction, I beg your pardon. And then, of course, process effectiveness is important across any management system standard. that you are integrating. This is very important for you. Regardless of the management system standard, the process has to be effective for you to get your intended outcome. Look at compliance requirements that you are implementing or incorporating into the system, and also the incidents as well. How do you monitor this? This is not for you to have a giant. The intention is not to say you have a giant dashboard of some sort. The intention is to say that you are giving top management holistic view of the organization. So you are not having separate KPIs managed by HSC manager, my environmental manager, quality manager, that are not considered holistically for the organization in order to make improvement. One very good area as well where you can integrate your management system is when it comes to internal audits. Having an integrated internal audit program means that you are going to save costs in terms of the, the 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 time as well you are going to even spend to conduct such audits, and it will give you the opportunity to have multi-competent auditors that can carry out these audits across board as well. It reduces disruption to operations and improves your audit efficiency. And you see that when you have an integrated management system, it also saves cost for the organization, especially when you have external auditors come into your system to carry out audit of your management system standard. So what this is saying is that as much as possible, look at areas within your organization where you can effectively integrate the requirements of this standard. Another very good opportunity for integration is in the area of management review. For every management system standard, just like I said earlier about internal audit, management review is always in clause 9.3 of any management system standard. You should look at the requirements in these management systems and see how you can have a comprehensive review of your management system. So what this means is that it will help you to reduce cases of having multiple meetings, different separate meeting management review on each of the separate standards that you have, but you are able to integrate them, look at your performance, look at to what extent you are able to meet objectives that have been set, to what extent are you being be able to address the risk, and you will be able to take advantage of the opportunities, and also have a holistic view of strategic improvements and decisions that top management can make. So what this is saying is that, for example, every management system standard, the type A management system standard, like I said earlier, is saying you should consider changes in your internal and external issues. So this can be looked at holistically and not only for a management system standard or the needs and expectation of interested parties. These are all examples. When it comes to improvement as well, this is another area that you can consider effective integration. When you have one non-conformity system, not a separate kappa that addresses only health and safety. You see organizations, they have a corrective action form that addresses each management system standard. This will bring about a lot of duplication, like I said earlier, and that will not really help the system. So you can do effective root cause analysis across the management system standards, and of course, your continual improvement. This is where you can also build the continual improvement or continuous improvement culture that you need to have within your organization. So, so that I'll begin to round up a bit now, just to tell you about the benefits of integration. When integration is done effectively, it helps you to eliminate redundancies. Redundancies, like I said earlier, about duplicating management systems requirements, having documentation, separate documentation for internal audit, for example, separate documentation for management review, separate documentation for control of documented information, separate documentation for training, for example. All these can be integrated. to reduce redundancies and, of course, duplication within the system. It will also help you to establish consistency because you are looking at the system holistically and not from a separate viewpoint. It will help you to reduce bureaucracy. This is also closely linked to the redundancies I said earlier, because when everything is streamlined and there are no duplications, then of course it will reduce bureaucracy as well. It helps you to strengthen accountability. Everybody takes ownership of the system, and it will, like I said, it will also help to reduce costs. For example, costs of multiple and separate internal audits, external audits will also reduce. Cost of resources for each of the separate management systems will also reduce because you're able to channel that holistically within the organization. It will also help you to optimize your processes and resources. It will reduce maintenance of the system. It will help to consolidate audits and assessments. It will help to facilitate your decision making as well and improve performance within the organization. Of course, we can also have challenges to integration, and that's why we need to plan effectively to see how we can address this. There will always be resistance to change. One of the resistance, of course, is when people are used to a particular type of system and they are finding it difficult to incorporate other requirements relevant to that management system into their process. So you need to, and this is where effective communication comes in. You need to make sure you have effective communication is there. Effective change management process is there as well, so that you get everybody's buy-in into the integration process. Competence can be a challenge if you don't have multi-sector competent auditors, for example, and this is why you may need to have training for people to be able to have competence to actually carry out some of these requirements. Now, or to address these requirements, you can also have different professional culture depending on the organization, which can also, the way health and safety practitioners, for example, prefer their own system to work may not be the same way a quality team prefers their system to work. But this is where the beauty of integration comes in. You need to work together as a team to make sure that you address the system requirements holistically. Meeting the management system requirements is always a challenge, especially for enterprise level enterprise level requirements organizations. For example, you are many organizations just do a clause mapping, and when they do the clause mapping, they don't take they don't take time to look at the requirements of even the clauses that have been mapped together. So this now leads to a situation where um, you can address requirements of probably ISO 9001 under a particular clause, even though it's a common clause, but miss out some requirements under another clause as well. And then, of course, another challenge is usually the challenge of sustaining your integration. You need to maintain and improve the integration, and that's why you must actively look for areas where there can be improvement. So this is the key takeaway for this brief session. Like I said, this is just is just to get you to remember that integration is a strategic business decision. It is not a clause-based documentation requirement. It's something that that is driven by your process. It is something that you need to drive through your process for you to get the desired result. And ISO 9001 being the widely um, implemented management system standard anywhere in the world, including the fact that it contains the quality management principles that have been tried, trusted, and effective. It will be effective and it enables enterprise efficiency. And of course, it is your processes that drive the performance, not the clauses of the standard. It is when you incorporate the requirements of the standard into your process that you can drive the effective performance that is expected. So thank you very much for your time. I will now, at this point, I'll give room for questions that may be already within the chat, or we can have people who are also here ask their questions. So you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile is what you see there as well. So thank you very much. Over to you, Gori.
So much, Olwafemi, for that insightful session. And yes, now the question and answer session has started, so you guys can feel free to drop your questions that you may have in the chat box. And yes, we're looking forward to get some questions. And I also shared Olwafemi's LinkedIn in the chat box. So if you would like to reach out to him anytime, if you have any questions, please feel free to do that as well. Let's wait on some questions.
Okay, if there are no questions yet. Okay, so Paul is saying he doesn't have any question for me right now. Thank you, Paul. But I think I should ask you, maybe we can discuss, you can put in the chat, what has been the greatest integration challenges for you within your organization? Maybe you can share that, and then probably we'll just discuss that if there's any.
You're going to be one of the speakers that we will be having in the upcoming session.
Oh, that's nice.
So, yeah. So we're absolutely looking forward for his session as well. And it's very nice that like he has been joining us on these sessions, you know. And like we see that like we are having one question here. It says that when the new ISO 9001 and ISO 14001 are released, the integration will also change.
Okay, that's a very good question. I'll be honest with you, the concepts will not change. And that is why the one thing I always say is organizations keep in mind that it's not about the clauses. It's about incorporating the requirements into your processes. So this will not change. Like I said, when I started at the introduction, I gave two statements. Those statements are actually, for those of us that have been able to review the drafts of the standard, these are actually statements emphasizing the standard to remind us that this is the intention of integration of the management system and not based on clauses. So you need to understand that the concepts or the idea behind the integration will not change. Okay, and there is, I will let you know that I have a I have a very good friend who was actually the convener of the ISO handbook, the integrated use of management system standards. If you're able to get hold of that document, it's something that will also effectively guide you when it comes to integration. And as far as I'm concerned, they can only improve that handbook, but the concept or the idea behind integration does not change. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that answer, Ulwafemi. And yes, if we have any more questions, you can feel free to drop them in the chat box.
Thank you, Moti. Okay. I think I've answered his question. Thank you, Moti.
So we're gonna be checking if we are getting any questions of the live stream. So allow me a minute.
Okay.
Yes, so there are like questions over here. So how do you handle conflicting requirements between standards?
Okay, so remember one of the slides that I gave earlier? Your key priority first is look at the commonalities. That makes your integration easier. And looking at the way the standard has been structured for standard writers, it makes it easier also for you to consider the requirements. However, like I said earlier, there are specific requirements. For example, and I gave example, for example, ASIP. ASIP is specific to food safety management system, for example. You won't see that in another management system standard. So it means that you need to now look at how your process or which of your processes can specifically address that requirement. That does not mean that it's conflicting. It's just saying that it's a specific or a management system specific requirement that you need to consider, okay, as part of your system. That does not also remove the fact that you can consider elements that you can see possibility of integration. But so that's exactly what that means. It's not really conflicting. It's just that those requirements are specific to that management system standard. And that is why, and that's one area also I always mentioned for people, for organizations that some organizations claim to have carried out integration, but you find out that by the time you look at the commonalities, they miss out some elements because those elements are specific to a management system standard. So you need to be able to ensure that you have competence to look at those requirements effectively, and you're able to incorporate even those specific requirements into the management system. Thank you.
And I guess we should also take this question. It says, how long does it usually take to integrate management system?
Okay, that's a very good question. I always say this, it's a strategic business decision. Integration is a strategic business decision. And I'm not here to, like Gary always informed me, I'm not here to sell product or anything, but I will recommend that you take your time. And there are processes involved requiring integration. It is top management that will lead the integration. It is after leading the integration, you determine the scope of your integration. You are going to identify the commonalities and, of course, the specific requirements you need to address. You are going to even, when you implement, you are expected to do a gap analysis of that system to see whether there are still some requirements you have left out. And of course, after that, you maintain and improve your system, and then you continue to run with that. So um, just to say, as a minimum, from my own perspective, I would say just consider at least 4 to 6 months effective integration for you as a minimum, so that you take your time as an organization to do an effective integration of your management system. So it's not something that should be a rush for you. And that's why top management is expected to drive this integration process. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that answer, Wafemi. That like we're not getting any more questions, so I guess like so far, all the questions have been answered. And yes, like we absolutely look forward having you for one of these sessions again in future if you feel. And yes, like all of you can feel free to reach out to Oluwafemi on his LinkedIn in case you have any more questions. And before we leave, like Oluwafemi, would you like to give us a final statement about your overall experience?
Okay, thank you very much, Gori, and thank you
Hello.
also, thank you, the Global Skill Development Council for the opportunity to have this presentation. So, this is just my final word. Keep in mind, effective integrated management system is process driven. It's not clause based. I think that's just the way I will end this conversation. Thank you very much for coming and enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Oluwafemi, for that insightful session as well as your time. And yes, like you have a good day ahead too. And before you guys go, I have few announcements to make. So yes, Oluwafemi, can you stop sharing your screen so that I can share mine? Okay, thank you. You can see my screen. So if you would like to grab a certificate for this particular session and all the ISO session, you can head to gsdccouncil.org and use the promo code ISO20, and especially the participants are getting a 20% discount on it. So make sure you're making the most of it. And GSDC has also recently launched a utility tool where one can straighten their professional presence, validate what they know, and open doors to the global opportunities. So all the people who have joined today's session, they're getting it for free. All you have to do is use AUG 100, and yes, like you will be having a lot of another things with that. And tomorrow we will be having Krishni Arumugam, and she will be giving us insightful session on ISO 31000, the global standard for enterprise risk management. And yes, 8 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. SGT. So make sure you're joining that session as well. And we also have leadership and learning impact for 2026 happening from 19th to 23rd January, 9:30 a.m. CST, 11:30 p.m. SGT. So if you would like to be a part of it, feel free. And other than that, we have the sessions going on AI in action. So from 19th to 23rd, 7:30 a.m. CST, 9:30 p.m. SGT. So if you would like to be a part of that as well, make sure you're grabbing the opportunity. And lastly, we would like to say thank you to Astik Saxena, Rakesh Ranjan, and Bandi Hemant for joining our referral championship. If you would like to earn the vouchers for $400, all you have to do is visit gsdccouncil.org and be a part of the leaderboard ship, where and as you like invite more people from your organization communities, and then you get the vouchers worth $400 as soon as you get on the top 3 chart. And if you would like to be a part of one of our learning capsule webinars or podcasts, you can feel free to reach out to me on gauri@gsdccouncil.org, and I'll be happy to get you started from there. Lastly, we would love to connect with you, so make sure you're following us on LinkedIn, visit our website, join our exclusive WhatsApp group. And if you could share your reviews and session takeaways on reviews.io, it would be amazing to read them. With this, we're coming to an end for today's session. I will be seeing you all tomorrow. So yes, thank you so much all once again. And yes, we look forward to seeing you in the another one. Thank you.